Hey there guys, today's video is a really weird one for me to be making because I made this all the way back in February. I'm talking to you from February even though for you it's June. Yeah, this is weird. By now I have long moved out of this apartment. I have graduated. This isn't my place anymore, and I might even not look like this. I probably got a tripod by now, hopefully. If not, this is the most cosmic, hilarious joke on the planet. So yeah, this is kind of weird. For today's review, we are going to be talking about The Vanishing Throne by Elizabeth May, and this is the second book in the Falconer series. If you don't know my long and storied history with this series, I first read The Falconer back in 2014 when Bibliomancy for Beginners did a hangout on it. The hangout is hilarious and you should totally watch it. However, because Taylor didn't really like it and Michaela was meh about it, a lot of the good things that I had to say about that book kind of got lost, and I kind of had a bad opinion in my brain about that book after that. When Michaela and I started book blogging again really ferociously back in January of this year, The Vanishing Throne just happened to pop up on NetGalley, and I said, I'll take that. And I don't know why I did it. Because I mean, I did like The Falconer when I read it by myself, but, you know, having that hangout kind of met my opinion a little bit. But I requested it, and I got it, and then I was like, well, I have to reread The Falconer. So back a long time ago, I posted a re-review of The Falconer because I read that book, and I was like, you know what? This really didn't deserve the review that I gave it the first time. So I re-reviewed it and said, hey, so these issues are still valid, but here also is the potential that I see in this book. The thing that really spurred me to do that review, though, was because at the time of writing it, I was 60% of the way through The Vanishing Throne, and I was having my mind blown. Absolutely blown. And so I'm really excited to finally be able to tell you guys exactly what happened. Kind of. This isn't a spoilery review, but it's gonna involve me doing a lot of crazy hand motions because, oh my god, guys, if you liked The Falconer, you are going to love The Vanishing Throne. If you didn't like The Falconer, you may very well like The Vanishing Throne because this book is 10 times better than The Falconer, hands down. So the book opens up with Eliana in the fairy realm, and if you're confused about how you got there, then you join me as well, because I was really concerned starting this book because I didn't get where the two periods of time connected, because there was that cliffhanger that really shouldn't have been a cliffhanger at the end of The Falconer, and there's like a time jump from when you start The Vanishing Throne. So that was very, very weird to me at first, but basically, here's the gist of what happens. Eliana did not save the world. Instead, she got tossed into the fairy world where that guy on the horse, who like kind of shows up at the end and you're like, who's this guy? Yeah, turns out he's a big bad and also Sorcha's brother. And he has Eliana captured in the fairy realm, and he actually tortures her while she's there, trying to dig through her memories to find information about this power that he wants to unlock. And you don't really know what that is in the beginning, but you just know that he really, really wants it because he wants to rule the Unseelie and the Seelie courts and bring that all together because the Kaliak has left and there's no one to rule. If this sounds like I'm just saying words, that's because I'm supposed to be. This is like the bare bones plot that's outlined to you in the beginning of the book, and as the book goes on, it begins to unravel more and more. And trust me, I loved where this story went. So obviously, Eliana is rescued from the fairy realms, and she is rescued not just by Kiaran, but by Kiaran's sister. And I think you pronounce her name Athen? I'm not sure, but literally here is all you need to know. From the second that Athen popped onto the page, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing, because she's kind of like the spunky sister kind of character, but she's just a little bit detached from humanity. So instead of being like the spunky go-getter, she's like spunky to Eliana because she just is like, oh, fighting all these things will be easy. And Eliana's like, you're insane. And she kind of is, but that's totally fine. And also, what Ethan brings out in Kiaran is a little bit more character, and that's kind of what I'm going to address next. So, my major issues with The Falconer were a couple of things. 1, plot. The plot was weird. 2, the steampunk society thrown in. That wasn't really done particularly well. 3, the characters. They seemed really, really one-dimensional, and I really wasn't into them. 4, the romance that seemed to be appearing and the cliches that came with that. 4 things right there that were my big issues with the first book. Allow me to show you, by putting down fingers, which of these issues were resolved in The Vanishing Throne. All of them. So, first up, plot. Plot in this book is so much better and so much more involved. In The Falconer, it was just really about Eliana and her quest for revenge, and all of a sudden, oh, she's a falconer, but you kind of already knew that because that was the title of the book, so it really wasn't a surprise, and oh, she has to save the world, and that's crazy. But like, the book opens up, and she hasn't saved the world, and she has to deal with that, and she's struggling with trying to be like, what could I have done differently to have saved the world, and now the world is destroyed, and when she comes out of the fairy realms, it's 3 years have passed, and so it's just literally destruction is complete and total, and there's nothing she can do. She's fighting a fight that she feels she's already lost, and that sets up a huge character-breaking dynamic for her. And since I just mentioned that, I'm going to bring that up right now. In the first book, Eliana just seemed like a boring little rich girl who was driven by vengeance to, you know, get the person who murdered her mom while also being a lady, blah, 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 blah. But like in this book, she doesn't have any of that. Like, she's realized she can't kill Sorcha because she's connected to Kiaran, and she doesn't know why that is. There is no more, you know, lords and ladies, balls, whatever, because, again, society has been completely destroyed. And taking with it, by the way, a lot of those steampunk elements that really bothered me, and just getting back down to the bare bones of, like, inventing and fairy magic, which was really, really cool and nice. But yeah, so Eliana, her character arc in this book is amazing, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to say that at one point she literally directly addresses the fact that in the first book she was just driven by vengeance and there wasn't much to her, but now she's grown and now she's becoming someone else as a result of everything that's happened to her, and I was like, this is amazing! Kiaran as well super duper bothered me in the first book. He was just like, I'm dark and brooding and I might as well be sparkly in the sun and only come out at night because I'm dark and brooding, and that's like my only character trait. And I get it, you know, he falls in love with her somehow. I didn't believe it. It was meh. But this book, again, I kind of credit Ethan for a lot of this, but also the plot as well really digs down into Kiaran's character and who he is and what's made him that way. And it's amazing. Like, you finally see this personality from him, and also why in the first book there wasn't a lot of personality. And all of a sudden his character, to me, I believe him. I believe him, and I believe in their romance, which is amazing. And I loved it. I loved it so much. Oh. Speaking of romance, let's talk about Gavin. So there's this thing in the beginning of the book that I don't really like, where Ethan comes to rescue Eliana from the fairy world, and she's like, how's the world? Has everyone survived? And like, Kiaran made Ethan promise not to, like, so literally swear an oath not to tell Eliana what happened. So there's like supposed to be this dramatic tension in the beginning, like, oh my god, did my friends survive and what's happened to the world? But you already know. So I don't feel like this is much of a spoiler that Gavin is not dead, and neither is Catherine, and they are both very much alive, but very much changed by the last 3 years that Eliana has not been around for. And so in the book 1, you kind of saw like this love triangle emerging, where Eliana wants Kiaran, and Gavin says he doesn't want Eliana, but Eliana and Gavin are getting married, and you're like, God, really? But again, there's no more marriage because there's no more lords and ladies. And when Eliana gets reunited with Gavin, he doesn't trust her because she hasn't aged, she's been trapped by the fairies, and he honestly believes that they might have corrupted her somehow. So really, book 2 is them trying to regain even a breath of that friendship that they had before in the first book, because everything has just been shot to hell. So no more love triangle. The romance is kept purely to Kjarn and Eliana, and that is amazing. Note on Catherine, by the way, she's gone from being the spunky best friend to being a really strong female friend and character for Eliana, and just being there and having the strength that she really didn't show, I think, in the first book. And so I was really impressed by what her character has gone through as well, and how that's shown, because I just, so much more character depth in this book, guys. So much more. So I've kind of addressed all of those 4 things in a mush right there, but I am also trying to be concise, because I'm mostly trying to convey how much you guys should totally read this book. Yes, there were definitely some issues with it. Again, the plot pacing wasn't so great. It kind of did like whoop, 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 which is weird. I don't know if you could even see all of that, but it was like, it really leveled off in the middle, which was kind of annoying, and then spikes back up. And there was this huge section of exposition that happened really close to the end. And while you really needed that there, I guess, there was no tension in that whatsoever. And I also feel that even though the ending was crazy, it was slightly unearned and slightly weird, just slightly confusing, because the character does something that you wouldn't have expected them to do based on the last time we saw them, which was the only time we saw them. I know, I'm being vague, but that ending, again, endings, I guess, are just not Elizabeth May's strong point. Cliffhangers for sure, but like explaining how we get to the cliffhanger is a little bit wishy-washy. Where it ended, I'm like, oh my god, I need the 3rd book now, for sure, but this one thing that happens in the end I wasn't too sold on. And again, I mentioned that thing in the beginning where like Kjarn's like, oh, Ethan, you can't tell her what's happened, and you're like, you know that Gavin's alive, you know that Catherine's alive, you know the world's been totaled, like, you know that. So I didn't understand the whole big deal of keeping Eliana in the dark. It was weird. But again, overall, just super impressed with this book. I can't believe how much better the characters and the plot and everything just was in this book. And so I really love that she just took everything that you expected, you know, the romance, the plot, anything that you could have assumed via cliche was coming, and she's like, you know what? In the end, Eliana didn't save the world, so none of these cliches can happen, because the world is destroyed and the hero didn't save it. So I just was so impressed by that, honestly. So all in all, when I gave the Falconer 3 stars, I'm bumping the Vanishing Throne up to a full 4 stars. And trust me, that star growth is a really impressed 4 stars. Like, I didn't want to stop reading this book, and when it ended, I was really, really upset. So again, if you loved The Falconer, you're gonna love this one, and don't even hesitate, go get it right now. I pointed in both directions. I feel like the Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz. And I mean, if you didn't like The Falconer, or you were mad on The Falconer but you liked the idea, I really suggest that you pick up The Vanishing Throne, because again, exponential growth for Elizabeth, and you are not gonna want to miss what happens. Thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoy. I think what will be one of the last views of this room, unless I get another arc that is like released a bajillion months in advance. But yeah, thanks. Bye.